Greetings, fellow men of culture. As always, I'm broadcasting live from the Toxic Positivity Leering Center at the peak of Thundercock Mountain. The video game industry is infested with testosterone-deprived, self-congratulating cucks that are obsessed with sucking upon that strong, independent female penis.
Smoking dick and sucking dick, baby!
Western publishers took the biggest entertainment industry on God's green flat earth and flipped it into a multi-dimensional laughingstock that can make even the archangels weep. In the early days, video games were viewed as a short diversion or a child's novelty, and those that took them more seriously were considered nerdy or kind of on the fringes of being into more mainstream hobbies. I've been playing video games since my earliest memories, and nobody ever let me finger fuck them once they knew how much World of Warcraft I played until recently. Even my wife didn't let me enjoy her massive areolas until after Raid was over. It wasn't fair. But now that video games are in the big time, they've become one of the biggest targets for ultra-progressive, finger-wagging HR Karens sitting alone in their California studio apartment with their spinster tchotchkes and stack of unsent Father's Day cards. How did this happen? The industry went from serving its customer base nearly exclusively, which is how it grew to the size it is now, to actively trying to antagonize them. Then they get pissed off when customers don't buy their substandard products. The answer becomes clear the more data we have. It turns out the ideologically driven Californians are coming, and they're coming all over the place. The GDC, or Game Developers Conference, 2026 State of the Industry Survey was recently published, and it gives us some insight into what's happening into the Western arm of the video game industry. Most of this data isn't exactly surprising, confirms a lot of what people already know, but it's good to have it documented. 28% of those surveyed identify as LGBTQIA2S+ Deluxe Edition, increasing the number of those who identify this way in the United States specifically to 31%. 1/3 of the entire American game industry is LGBT. How the hell did that happen? I'll show ye.
I'll show ye.
The narrative for the past decade was that gamers hate gay people. They hate women. Companies are actively discriminating against LGBT people by not hiring them, and nothing can ever fix it. It turns out the LGBT community is actually overrepresented in the game industry. But if someone currently working in the industry points that out, they're ostracized by the hive mind. People who you thought were friends and good colleagues will stab you right in the taint if you stray off the consensus. Some of those who work at big publishers, particularly Sony, can see plain as day that projects like Concord, Hunter's Gathering, and maybe even Marathon have glaring issues that could easily be fixed if someone pointed them out. But that never happens. The biggest contributing factor to these games getting greenlit is something called toxic positivity. It's not when you eat 15 pounds of butter chicken and shit yourself. It's a social phenomenon that makes people who sit outside of the majority consensus on a certain topic uncomfortable to voice their concerns, even if the problems they point out are obvious, for fear of their coworkers and maybe even the company they work for turning on them. These companies deliberately foster an environment that's similar to daycare. Every employee needs to feel like they're heard, and all their concerns affirmed, no matter how selfish or ridiculous. This facade of positivity needs to be upheld to the detriment of the entire company and whatever they're working on. To an outsider, character designs like those seen in Concord, Hunter's Gathering, and other Sony joints are so painfully stupid, I'm slowly unlearning math by witnessing them.
Restaurant, my love. Marriage is strong. Restaurant and Justin, together forever. Together forever. Together forever. Restaurant and Justin, together.
I wipe my fat black ass with these character designs. But to those within the company who only communicate with like-minded individuals, these designs seem genius. These people live and breathe this shit. They're sustained entirely off the fumes of their own farts. It's like in The Cloverfield Lane. Fred Flintstone tells everyone that leaving his bunker is certain death. For the other two people that are in there with him, their entire world for the foreseeable future is in this doomsday bunker. They only speak to each other. The only source of news from the outside world is filtered by one guy, and if anyone says anything out of line, they get molested. The game industry is like that, but voluntary, and on a much bigger scale. Everyone is in this big-ass bunker, and for the most part, they're happy there. Nearly everyone thinks the same, has the same worldview. For some reason, they're all gay, and that's their entire universe. But there's very few people among them that don't think or feel like the rest of the group. The problems with their game and character design are clear as day and can easily be fixed. But if they actually point any of that out, they get molested. The squeaky wheel gets the jizz. The tallest and strongest erection gets caught in the car door. That's how baffling games like Concord, High Guard, and Fair Games make it all the way through the multi-year development process without someone stepping in to plop their massive balls on the director's desk and say that there's some changes that need to be made. There's a reason I was making California jokes earlier in the video. If we check the GDC survey, we can see that the United States has the vast majority of game industry professionals, which isn't really surprising. If we check which states specifically, It turns out California has 1/4 of the industry workers born there, with 34% overall currently living there. Who would have thought the state with an overwhelming number of degenerate, above-the-law celebrity freaks would offer the most mentally and emotionally unstable workforce? And when it sucks, it fucks. The layoff spree continues to hammer the gaming industry, with 1 in 4 employees being laid off in the past 2 years, 1/3 in the US specifically. Of those who experienced a layoff in the last 2 years, 48% say they haven't found another job in the industry yet. AAA companies in particular are shedding employees like crazy due to the massively overhiring during the Rona. A good chunk of the games that were developed during this mass hiring spree are coming out now, and they all suck. If these companies were putting out Fortnite levels of successful games, there would still be layoffs, but not 1/3 of all the employees in the country. A ton of AAA developers got in on the gold rush when everyone was at home and playing more video games, and all ended up hiring tens of thousands of the same copy-pasted person, which is how this all ended up happening in the first place. Even before 2020, activists were getting their foot in the door at these companies, then exclusively hired their friends and allies. Candidates who had no business making video games would get hired with 0 relevant credentials, simply by claiming they were LGBT or had friends in the company. Over time, these people infested every company in the West and proceeded to put out some of the most embarrassing video games ever made. Recent Microsoft changes show this exact thing happening. Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer and Xbox President Sarah Bond both left the company on February 23, 2026. Spencer's replacement is announced to be Asha Sharma, who is currently the president of the Microsoft Core AI division. Great. She promises no soulless AI slop in their games though, but let's be real, that's probably a filthy lie. My In the Field news team has informed me that Asha Shawarma claims to be a hardcore gamer, world-class hibachi chef, but the evidence suggests otherwise. She actually shared her personal gamer tag, which was brave considering the first Xbox game she ever played was the Master Chief Collection on January 15th of 2026. She played Cities Skylines for 12 minutes, which is good. Ball X Pit for 42 hours, which I agree is a great indie game. No Diablo or Call of Duty, 2 of Microsoft's biggest franchises ever. Maybe she played a lot of PC games before switching to Xbox, but let's be real, she just started playing video games. And now she's in charge of turning the Xbox division around. For comparison, Phil Spencer spent just as much time gaming as he did damaging the Xbox brand. The guy has 120,000 gamer score and over 1,000 hours of playtime spread across Destiny 1 and 2. Even though he left the Xbox division in a worse place overall than when he joined, at least he has some insight into his customer base. It's no wonder the industry is experiencing bowel-emptying levels of layoffs. Regardless of how cynical I am towards the whole situation, these companies can't afford to run massive adult daycares forever, even if they have wealthy investors. The AAA side of the industry is leering things the hard way. They let this rot into their workforce, let it grow, and now it's festering and damaging the entire company and their already poor reputation. Toxic positivity chokes creativity, and game development is almost entirely a creative endeavor. It creates a hostile work environment under the guise of an open and welcoming one. The only way this problem can be fixed is if things get even worse. Sony can keep putting out doomed live service games with nasty character designs until they have to start making money again. Developers, big and small, are free to release whatever they want, and the market will decide whether or not their product is worthy of success. In terms of variety, the gaming industry has never been better. There is so much excellent stuff coming out of the indie scene every day in every genre. Eastern developers haven't forgotten what makes players happy, and they're providing titles that people actually want. If you completely ignore every AAA release, there's an amazing amount of stuff out there that you can play forever. The mass layoffs the industry has been experiencing for the last few years will weed out some of the bad actors, maybe even enough that these stupid companies get back to making video games instead of political message vehicles. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, I would greatly appreciate a like and subscribe. If you want to learn all about the lesbian video game, check out the video on screen, and I hope to see you all in the next one.